Hi, welcome to today's episode of the Gothic Heart, where I am going to be asking you an important question. Do you like who you are? This has been coming up a lot in life for me right now with my children, and I thought it was very worthy of a discussion on determining how important it is on what other people say or express about you. Hey, it's Amity, welcoming you to the Gothic Heart, where we explore how to fully embrace your Gothic and alternative self in love, life, and everything in between. Whether you're navigating the dating scene, in a relationship, or celebrating your individuality solo, this is your spot for tips, inspiration, and my own journey from a courtroom attorney to a hollow wedding host. So grab your favorite drink and let's dive in. So let's dive in. So, the first personal story that comes to my mind was sort of a turning point in my life. I've always enjoyed my self expression and never thought twice about it, even when people didn't understand or agree. That was never a problem for me, although I know it can be, and we will get there. For me, I, like many people, had trouble with relationships and long-standing romantic relationships. I would had great friends. I had a great circle of people, social, and had great times. But there was always something that would be off in relationships. And I know that always happens to everyone until they find the one person they want to be with. So I am obviously no stranger to that. And what happened was after one of my many failed relationships, some very close friends of mine sort of, after asking permission, gave me a lot of feedback on how I come across and what it might be and what they might be thinking and how certain things I do appear to others, et cetera, et cetera. And like many people, I not just then, but always when something would happen or something would be said, I would overthink and overanalyze for days and it won't get out of my mind. And that time was no exception. I went back and I thought about every single thing they said. I really took it to heart. I looked at my life and I looked at myself. And guess what I determined? I actually realized I like who I am. I love the way I live my life, and I wasn't willing to change that. It didn't matter to me how it came across. It didn't matter what was happening. I liked who I was. So that wasn't going to be the right person if they didn't accept me for who I was. And that was a huge turning point. I was probably 29 at that time. And that was a huge turning point because that is what actually led me back to my current husband, who I had known since I was 19. Lots of crazy stories there. But I realized, why am I chasing or dating people who I may have to step on eggshells or tailor certain things to, certain things that I like about myself? Obviously, I could see working on things that I did not like or didn't want to be a part of my life. But things that I liked about myself, I was no longer going to compromise. And he had always loved me for who I was and reached back out. And the rest is history because we got married. Uh, but that was a huge turning point. So that's the basis and the story and what brought me to think about doing this episode of Do You Like Who You Are? Because there are a lot of well meaning people in our lives that may be offering what could be advice or guidance out of what they believe is love. And is it necessarily a good advice or guidance, or is it their perception of how you should be living your life? So I just wanted to explore that a little with everybody because not liking and having the traditional norms and styles of what is considered normal and typical, I put quotes around those in my in the air, um, can often lead to a lot of people projecting their opinions on you. And not just then, people do it all the time, of course, I know, but we're talking about in this context. So, self perception and how we see ourselves. The reason this was coming up for me a lot in life lately, because I've been married for 13 years, it's not about that. Lately is because I notice my 9-year old having that inner voice, that inner unfriendly voice. Third grade, has been just a lot of peer like pressures and learning about popularity and all this stuff. I don't remember learning about it that young, but it has been very prevalent this year in her grade. And the mean voice that I keep hearing her use with herself, internally, well, externally, but I hear that she's meaning it to herself. It's just reminding me how destructive those voices can be. And I know we all have them. And sometimes for us that tend to listen to a type of music, or have a different sort of decorating style or makeup style or clothing style or any jewelry style, right? We can hear a lot of things from other people, and it could be people that we love, family, friends, etc., who don't necessarily get it. So is that hurting our self-perception or our self-image of ourself? So it's really something everybody needs to decide for themselves. Like when I went back and truly objectively listened to what my friends had said, and I'm not one to, be closed minded or not like people that like other stuff. I have friends that like all kinds of everything. I've always liked unusual stuff, so I've always welcomed anything. I've never been like, oh, you don't like the same stuff as me? Well, then we can't be friends type of thing. No. So it didn't bother me that they had different opinions on what people would see of me and how they would react to me, because that was fine. We were friends. I wasn't worried about there. But really thinking about it objectively and saying, okay, so if people are seeing these things, do I want to change who I am and change these behaviors so people don't see these things? And that's, for me personally, I decided I love who I am and how I'm living my life. I'm a kind person. I love my family. I love all my dogs, my house, the way I decorate, the things I like, the music I listen to. None of that was something I wanted to change. And I didn't have to. You don't have to. You only have to if you feel like that's not something you like about yourself. So I wanted to just talk about this because not everyone necessarily, I mean, I was 29, maybe I was 28, when that came to me. And, that's years of worrying about what other people think and how they react to you and what you can present to the world and what you can't. Granted, today things are a lot more free and I love it. But there's still that piece, especially it can come from our parents and friends, right? So there is, I think, a difference between, good advice and loving, constructive comments and thoughts, and and destructive criticism, and not true, genuine advice. Someone who's just telling you these things because that's what they think and they can't see any other perspective. They don't have empathy to see inside someone else's point of view. And it may not be that easily distinguishable, especially if it comes from someone you love and trust. So, in that vein, it really comes back to you and what do you like about yourself. So, if someone comments, here's a great story. I was dating this guy. He was probably my absolute next closest person that I may have one day married if I hadn't ended up with my husband. So it was that kind of relationship or person that I thought of in that way. And I remember, because we would have off again, on again, and all these things. And I remember every time thinking, he had this thing that he called red flags and yellow flags. And the type of music I listened to was a yellow flag, a caution sign. my dogs a yellow flag because, whatever the reason was. But there were just all those things that at my age and whatever, obviously wasn't going to change. I still have my dogs. I'm still going to listen to my music, but it was more like I had to tailor who I was being. And after one of the many on off agains, I realized I'm not walking on eggshells. Like, you can't accept my type of music when I can accept these things about you, or you can't accept, or these are things you worry about. They're yellow flags that you have to watch out for and see what's happening and where it ends up. No, you either accept it or you don't. The type of music I listen to wouldn't harm you in any way, you know, or my dogs, you're not used to having pets, fine. Well, if it's important to me, maybe you learn it, right? So there's a way to discover or to determine where your line is or where you draw the line. Like, what are your non-negotiables? For me, it was my dogs, absolutely. After how many years have I been listening to this kind of music or been into this stuff? Like, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. That's just who I am. And I know when you get into your 40s, you could say things like that and you feel that way and you get it. But how do we figure it out for people who are not there yet? Which is, again, what I'm trying to do with my daughter right now. I wish I could show her that the things I always say when she's struggling well, do you like that? Do you like that about yourself? Well, then it doesn't matter what they're telling you just because they don't like it. If you like it, that's the specialness inside you. You do it. You rock it. You show it off. You're proud. Do it. And it's not that hard for a 9-year-old. I mean, it's not that easy for a 9-year-old, a third grader, of course. Obviously it takes us how many years to realize doesn't necessarily matter what other people think, although, not everybody ever gets there. My parents are boomers. It's very much putting on a show and everything looking perfect. Born in 1947, that's the way they were brought up. So it comes down to, do you want to blend in or do you want to stand out? And both of those are okay answers. But if you determine that about yourself, then you can figure out what parts of yourself or what parts of how you live your life you want to be are non-negotiable and what ones you're willing to compromise on, if it means for a job or a relationship or for I can't think of another good example at this moment, but what ones you're willing to compromise on. So and I don't know that this is necessarily going to give anyone an answer. It's just food for thought on really thinking about yourself and how you feel about your things and not how other people's are. Don't let those other people's voices come in. They may say something about you and you internally look at and you really, I don't like that about myself. Great. Well, then you can move on or improve or change or grow. That's fantastic. They may be right about some things. But just because someone you love or care about or is in your circle of trust says something about you or how you come off to others, or that you should act or be a certain way that may be in contrast to yourself, does not necessarily mean you should. Okay. Each one of us has to decide that for ourselves. And like I mentioned before, that it was life changing, right? When I took all that and instead of tailoring that and being a little less this and less this, so I could, have, what they considered would give me longer lasting relationships, etc. When I finally realized I like who I am, everything changed. I got with my husband, I started building this amazing life, and it really truly did change my life. So I wanted to come on for anyone else who is struggling with that. It doesn't mean you have to only surround yourself with people who accept you exactly how you are. That's not what I'm saying. There are lots of people that I am good friends with and I don't accept every single piece of them. There are some pieces of them that that's not what we talk about. That's not where we explore. We have a fun doing other things. I'm not saying you have to cut everyone out of your life that may not be like that or that may not, necessarily embrace you 100%. They you can share what's important to you and what you like about yourself and what you're not changing. And these are your non negotiables, and share all the things you guys can still do and have in common, and trust them to come up with the things they like about themselves, and things they may not like about themselves are they willing to work on or change if you are. Uh, a classic example, as another time, of course, there are always going to be dating examples here. I was dating this person, this guy, and literally he would just think I was such a bad person, or like I don't know if that's the right word, but like that I was like bad or not doing something right or something, when I don't even remember what it was. Or like when I didn't go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night to get ready for work the other day. I'm a night owl. I'd go to sleep at like 12:30 or 1:30. What does that matter? I didn't. Well, that's just me. But that was bad, and I was living my life the wrong way, etc. Or I mean, it was just so weird. And I would always at one point I was just like, you always leave the bathroom a huge mess. Like, I don't think you're a bad person. We just clean it up. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? And that was a turning point in that one. Like, I'm not doing things bad. I'm not being a bad person. This is just who I am. And obviously, that's a way to discover. I know these are just odd examples, but hopefully anything can resonate with you or just give you that push or that inkling to just self reflect truthfully on yourself and what you like, and not based on the perceptions or what anyone else may say. So, in conclusion, since I've been talking about this for a while, I would love if you're able to do that or struggling to do that, reach out. I spent years suppressing in some ways and not in other ways, for relationships and for jobs, etc., being in the corporate world. And it's very freeing and liberating, even right now, to finally be releasing and coming to terms and showing myself off more, even in business. It's been pretty exciting. And again, I'm in my 40s, and it's only just happening on that end for me. So I know the struggle. I know how it is, the pressure to appear and be a certain way, and it being in conflict with us. So it brings us full circle back to the important question: is, do you like who you are? If the answer is yes, then you're doing it. Then you're doing everything great, and keep on going. If the answer is yes, but, that's still great. Then there's things that you now know that are worth working on and improving to become a person that you love in every aspect. And if the answer is no, then there's more to look at. And we can keep exploring and figure it out. The answer may be no, you don't like yourself if you're hiding everything about who you are and it's really stressful and you're not getting to express yourself. I mean, that could be a big reason if you come back and say, no, I don't like myself. Well, maybe it's because you're not getting to be who you are or who you really feel you are. So there's so many, obviously, parallels and ways that this can play out. And if this even helped anyone a little bit, or maybe I could show it to my daughter and she'll realize, because I'm always like, well, do you like it? Do you like it? So I pose that question to you. Do you like who you are? Let me know. Share your comments, share your stories like I shared mine. And good luck out there. I'll see you in the next one.